Welcome back to the Red Path. I am here today joined by Mr. Dan Brook, and we're going to talk about his experience at the Coventry GT. Dan, how you doing, mate?
Great, thank you, Jamie, and also great to be back on the channel. It's been a while since we chatted, but it's appreciate you inviting me back to have a little talk about the World Eaters.
Yeah, well, look, when someone goes 5-3 at a major, I think we need to have a conversation. I think we need
a chat. Yeah.
So, all right. First of all, tell us a little bit. Tell you what, break down your list for us. I'll put it up on the screen, and hopefully I'll have some pictures up for people and stuff. But just give us a brief overview of your list, because it's a little bit different.
It is, yeah, and it came about through a chat with Alex Harrison of all people. Okay. He knew I had a custom Charybdis, and I was kind of like, well, and I had my list in mind. I've done a couple of RTTs with, and I was happy with it, with just pure World Eaters.
Yeah.
And then he mentioned it, and the more I thought about it, it's kind of one of those things you like just gets in your brain like a brain eating bug. I'm like, the Charybdis, the Charybdis, the Charybdis. Okay, I can see how that can play. Go first, yeah. So yeah, that's a big thing in the list. It was the 400-point Charybdis, Lord of War, but thankfully with the new rules, it only cost a CP to include it now, which is like, it makes it more accessible with any like big thing, as I'm sure you're aware with a few other players with like the Lord of Skulls and stuff like that. So yeah, I kind of went, you know what? I'll fill that with Berserkers. I'll fill that with a Chaos Lord or Khorne or Exalted, and let's see what we can do. So that was the main point, was having something that could just deliver turn one X amount of units into the enemy lines and stuff. So it was all, the rest of it was all about working out how to be as efficient as possible with that kind of key, because it's such a big point sink, that key element of the list. So we had the classic Chaos Lord in Terminator armor, and I go with him over like a Jump Lord because I have the Angron model from 30k, and I've chopped off Gorechild and given him a combi bolter. So so out of the four of us, he's the only. I had the official relic of the Legion. I was the only one with it, and I probably did the worst because I tried to get a wager going, like to see who could do the best. I don't know if that's been touched on, but mine probably did the worst out of all of them. He couldn't do anything, but I had the official relic on there. So that was his relic, and then we had Violent Urgency, which is a really good, for me personally, especially with how the list is built. I think it's key for that style of play and what the list was doing. So that was kind of like a necessity to have that many units coming in, to have an extra +1 to the charge, basically, to making all those units have an 8-inch charge. So yeah, that was kind of all the Warlord traits. That was kind of like key for how it was, again, building those synergies. And then we had two more, and Dara nearly DQ'd me from Coventry over this HQ choice when he was checking my list. I had the Exalted Champion with the Murder Sword, and I know he's not really enough. No, he doesn't like it at all. But I'll touch on how what that and how that helped me in other in games leading up to the finish and stuff. And it's just kind of having that threat in your back pocket where you can just flat out delete a character, which could be on a 3-up or a 4-up involve. Sometimes they can spike and you can really struggle to get through that and stuff. So yeah, he was in there, just a combi bolter and a sword. So yeah, added the extra Murder Sword on there, and just to, like I say, it's kind of just a threat, an extra threat in the HQs, basically.
Yeah.
I don't know how you think about the Murder Sword yourself, but
I do. I've been thinking about putting it in myself, to be honest. I've tried it a couple times. I loved it in 8th edition, and I've got a cheeky little Jump Lord I'm working on right now, and I'm thinking of going with a Murder Sword and a Lightning Claw.
Well, I like you. I've got another Chaos Lord in Terminator armor who has a sword, so it's like for future editions maybe has dropped Gorefather, but for that model to be in there, it's so, like, for me, the history of it with how I started, that's like one of my first ever models. It kind of like has to go in there with Gorefather, but we'll see. But yeah, I could ramble on about.
I got a question for you, because you also rocked two Whirlwind Scorpius tanks, didn't you?
I did, yeah, two Scorpiuses. So not quite. My list isn't quite the Dara like Noah's Ark 2x2.
Yeah.
But there is two Scorpiuses, and I had the other HQ in there, which was Khorne. Now some games, if there was a lot of like, and I'll touch on a little bit later on, if there's a lot of MSU that I'm facing, I'd have Khorne starting the board. The Exalted in the Charybdis, but if I needed kind of like the re-rolls or Khorne to just be in there in the mix, he'd go in the Charybdis, and then the Exalted would go elsewhere, and I'd kind of leave the Scorpius. If they picked off anything, any wounds at all here, there, anywhere, then that's kind of like an extra added bonus. Basically, they weren't kind of. I wasn't relying on having someone with them to babysit them if I didn't feel like there was a need there to do so. So that's like how the HQs are running with some of the other units in the army. I then filled that up with 5 troop choices. So we had 2 squads of cultists, which were kind of doing a lot of the legwork.
Right.
Anything that needed like your banners and stuff like that. It's really tricky when you want all those big like hitting units in the Charybdis for you to then like play the secondaries basically. And when we talk about like changes and stuff like that, I'll touch on that a bit more. But so 2 squads of cultists and then 3 squads of berserkers. So to fill this Charybdis up, I went ham with my berserkers. I went a squad of 9, a squad of 8. So that made 17, and a space for the either Exalted or Khorne, or sorry, the Exalted and Angron, the Chaos Lord and Terminator armor, or Angron and Khorne. Now, a lot of the people I was playing, I kept referring to my Chaos Lord as Angron, and they got a little bit like confused with me, because I'm like, Angron's doing this. He's like, wait, what is this character? What is this unit you're putting into my outline? Oh, it's just a Chaos Lord. But for me, it's like it's always like Angron butchering. So yes, they filled that out, and then we had a squad of 6 that would either start on the board and do another like banners for me, another like a mission role, or they went into the drill.
Okay.
So I was drill gang. I was part of the drill gang this tournament. So that's one of the other transports I had, which leaves me just enough room to squeeze in a Leviathan Dreadnought with 3 Hunter Killers and 2 Gravflux Bombarders.
Full Dakar, nice.
I went full Dakar with him, full Dakar for this tournament, and this variation of my World Eaters, to say like I'm jumping in at deep end, investing in the Charybdis. I'd never play tested this list before. I went straight into an 8-game major, like super tournament with like 0 experience, and I've talked to a couple of the Team England guys, especially Tony Chu and a few other lads that I do a lot of gaming with online. And they said it's the best place to test your list. You either like it and you have a great time, or you don't, and you come back next time like stronger with more ideas. But at least it's the best place to play it is not really against like your mates, like after a couple of like chilled out games. It's like getting in there, someone that's on it, who's like wanting to crush you and stuff like that. So it was an interesting place to go, really, and to test the concept out and see if it works. That was the main thing, to see if I could get it to work, mate.
I was, when I read your list, when the list went live and everything, I was like, that's it, because I've we've talked about the Charybdis several times, and I love it. I've got one back here over my shoulder on the shelf there. I've not used it competitively. I've used it in fairly fun games and stuff like that. But and your one you where you was posting the pictures, mate, it's such a badass model. Like, it's just so aggressive looking. It's like, this is how we kill the Imperium right here.
I'll get some pictures over to you. Hopefully they'll like come up now. But this thing was made from like 3 drop pods, a load of plastic card, and just like a bit of ingenuity, especially with like the underneath of it. When you see that, like, I've got this, I made the hatch out of just like lots of slicing, lots of like finicky little bits of plastic card work and terrain pieces and stuff. But when the Charybdis, the one that's behind your shoulder, when it's got like the claws all the way down, it's about that height, so it's mine can hide a knight behind it. It's such a
And I'm glad that you got good results with it but I mean, we'll touch on how it did in the games here in a little while. But all right, what about the event overall? Like, you know, everything from you're traveling there, you know, meeting the boys, you know, just the general atmosphere. I take it you had a good time, right?
Oh mate, yeah. This is like, so I've done a couple of RTTs, which I said with nothing because of, you know, the whole country situation, and I've got kids myself, so trying to find the right balance of when to like pull the trigger and go to a tournament and like be mindful of their health, you know, and stuff like that, and like especially the mum and stuff. You know, I found it quite a bit of a balancing act, and I didn't want to commit too early because as soon as they went, like especially over here, the UK went right, you can do stuff. Events just like came flying out the woodwork, and I kind of just like I let people go, and I could see like especially the competitive nature in me, how like where I was in the ITC rankings and where I've been in the past. It's kind of like going for like drop in and drop in and drop in and drop in and like not getting anything, and people obviously getting some really good scores in with some good tournaments and some good play. And obviously you had the challenge that you set as well, so I was always in the back of my mind like, when am I going to start my big tournament scene? So to drop into an eight round tournament was a bit daunting with the new list and stuff. But yeah, event wise, it was funny because we like in the Discord, we're all chatting together, and I was like, Dara had messaged me to say, and he said, "Oh, I'm in this hotel." I'm, "Oh no way, I'm in the same hotel. That's cool." And I got my room number, and he messaged me, "Oh, I've broken my Leviathan. Have you got any glue?" I was like, "Yeah, I'll come over. What's your room number?" He's like, "So I'm 215." He's like, I'm 216. I'm like, "Give over." They put the World Eaters next to each other, like the whole hotel. We were literally like next door. So I went over like. Introduced myself, and that was it. Then we kind of like got on. I like to think we got on really well, which is nice. And just seeing people as well, like that you've not seen for so long, that was kind of like the best part, the social side of it for me. Wasn't getting, but the results were very nice, obviously, but seeing people I've not seen in a long time and hanging out and getting to the event. And Zach did a great job. Like I didn't hear anything about like complaints around the food. The food was all good, reasonably priced. Like a lot of alcohol on on offer as well, and drinks. You know, so with that, the venue was fit for purpose basically, and what he put on, which was great. He added some more terrain, so the terrain was a little bit dense, which was. Made it a little bit life difficult for the Charybdis, but I still managed to just ram it down where they did it to. So
find a hole somewhere,
So definitely the to go to my first Coventry GT. It's not too far away from me really in Manchester, so I recommend it, and I'd go again basically. So I was quite happy with that.
And there's another big one, ain't there? The Manchester one is coming up next year.
Yeah. I think it's in March, so that's on my doorstep. So I've got a ticket for that.
That'll be the next season, but still, that'll be a nice one to jump into if you can get there.
It'll be a good start to it. So I've missed so much for this year. We can check that off early. Hopefully, get some good points on the board and stuff, and see how we're going to go. Because I'm loving being back with my first army, Jamie. I'm absolutely loving it. It's a challenge, and you know, you've preached before, and I've been on here as well before and said like it's not the best legion in the codex, but we do have our bits, and you are fighting a little bit with one hand tied behind your back. But if we can maximize the plays and make some good decisions, then we can get some really good results. And you can see that across the ITC standings basically.
Every win with your World Eaters feels earned. You know what I mean? It's not like if you're running your I don't know, like if you're playing Admic right now, saying no disrespect to Admic players, but you don't have to do too much against many armies. That you'll have a couple matchups if you go second versus Drakari or something, but when you're playing World Eaters, every win you get is well deserved because
they're a bit more forgiving. Because if you make a mistake in the movement or like a charge phase or anything, and you make that slight mistake, it can be game changing. Whereas with those newer armies that have got a little bit more about them, they can get away with it, can't they? So
they really can.
So it was really enjoyed it, and I'll just say my target going into this event was to try and get 3 wins. That was my goal. I'd have been happy. with the Legion, and especially trying the new list out. Getting 3 wins was the goal. So I'll point that.
To get 5 of them, nice. So all right, let's move on here a bit. Tell us about some of your favourite moments in a game, whether it's just like something at, Khorne kicking off, or the Charybdis just jumping in, deleting something, making a charge. I don't know. Tell us about a couple of those moments which you were like, this is why I play this game.
Oh, definitely. It has to go to Khorne, and this went straight into the Discord as soon as it happened. So the whole list design was about trying to get first turn and getting that Charybdis in. I went first twice over the whole event, so it became a little bit of a challenge, but it was good because you could see how that worked and how you can play about with getting screened out and stuff, and where you're going to put that. So it was definitely a brilliant learning curve. But what happened in game 5, I was against a mixed list of Raven Guard and Iron Hand successors, I believe. So the lad I played him quite a few times, a guy called Danny, pushing for like Team England spots and stuff. So he's in that scene basically. He's certainly trying to improve as a player and get into that squad. So again, someone that knows kind of like roughly what they're doing. It's no pushover. So he went first and had a pre-game move on a squad of Vanguard vets.
Right.
So he kind of asked me like, what the defensive stats of Khorne. Is like, well, he's got a 3 up and a 4 up by like 5 wounds, I think it is. He's like, okay. Next minute, like 5 inches away from him after the move, and I'm like, I can see he's going to hit Khorne, delete Khorne, and tie the 2 Scorpiuses up because Dan had a lot of small units, and that was one of the games where I had Khorne start on the board. And I can't remember what mission it was, but we had the corners, the table quarters with the. With the 9-inch like bubble in the middle, and they came in, and I think he gave me 14 invul saves to make, and I passed 11 of them, 15 passed 11. So I was left on 1 wound, and Khorne just turned around like, "Who are you?" and just took Gorechild and cleaved head straight off. And my mate Dan, because he is, I know someone I know quite well. He was in shock. He's like, I can't believe it. The whole plan was. I know what your plan was, mate. You were gonna just touch the Scorpiuses, and that'd have been game. I wouldn't be able to do anything all for the rest of the match. So he's on 1 wound at that point. And then, unfortunately, that game went away from me. It wasn't one that I got like a 100-60 loss, but and he had his Centurions dropping in and stuff like that. And then turn 5, so I was again the bottom of the turn. But his turn 5, he said, right, I'm not going to shoot Khorne because the Centurions were like 5 inches away with all the nasty flamers and stuff. I was like, I'm going to take that last wound in combat, and it'll be payback for what he did to my Vanguard vets. I was like, you know what, the Khorne World Eater player in me like respected that. He could have shot him, but he didn't, and fair play. So he goes into it, makes the charge, rolls just handfuls of dice at me, and then he gives me 9 invul saves to make. And he's like, okay, you're not doing it again. No chance, you're not doing it. I'm like, okay, Dan. And I just looked at him, Jamie, had the dice in my hand. I eyeballed him, just like, seeing what he's about. And I just looked at him, rolled, and I didn't look at the dice. And I kept my eyes on him, and his eyes just slowly went down to the table. And he went, "You've got to be effing kidding me." And I looked, and he made every single one of them. And he repeated the feat. He just turned around and went, "Who are you, Imperial scum?" and just cleaved all 3 of their heads in return. I was just like, I couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe it. It's like, that's like in the lore how he is. He would just butcher stuff that like anyone that tried it, like these Centurions with the big drill hands. He couldn't believe it. So that was my legendary moment of the tournament. Even though the game was a loss, it was just how much of a. If you spike those 4 ups, it's it's something to behold. Especially on 1 wound as well. Like there was no way if I just lost one of those, he was brown bread.
Oh mate, I love it. I do love a good Khorne story, because most of my Khorne stories aren't good Khorne stories.
No, they're not. I agree with that.
Kick off,
That's what I mean. He just turned around and took both units out in return for the offence of having his weakened cousins try and take his life. And like Khorne was shining down on that. Khorne was not having his best champion. go down to some mixed Imperium soups like there. And I've got a picture of that, so that should hopefully come up, and you can see like I put the 9 dice behind him as well, because the lad was like, you've got to take, whatever you do, you've got to take a picture of it. And like, you know what, and like had him all the right way round, and he made sure it looked like epic as possible. And he definitely cleaved some heads and took some skulls in that game. So that's probably like my highlight. A bit off, not in a game. Another highlight for me was just how invested we all were as World Eaters players into each of the games. Like Dara would come running over wanting to hear stories about the Charybdis and like deck and stuff, and I'd be like going back making sure, oh, you got to win, and we would just be bouncing around because it's World Eaters and we're getting wins in the tournament and stuff, and we were just having such a good time. So yeah, definitely. That was definitely a highlight, was the camaraderie of all 4 of us, especially when Jack came over for the 2-dayer and stuff. So like catching up.
I was as you guys would be like posting pictures or putting messages in the Discord as it was going on. I was like, I would have given a lot to have been over there just to come over and just to hang out, because it was just sounded like such a magic time. Like it
was a blast. And I think that's the age of having like the Discord and chatting beforehand. Like we'd never met, but just making some good friends and having a great laugh and just absolutely buzzing over the little victories and wins, and just seeing how certain units went. And especially I think having like me setting that kind of like a challenge to see who could be the best with Gorefather, because I'd go over to Dara and he'd be like pumped as hell, like, oh, Gorefather just shredded this round. And I'm like, damn it, mine literally, I sacrificed mine so my berserkers could not get hit, because I was, with the way it worked in some of the games, if you made all the charges, you knew you were going to get countered. But I put Angron in a place where he'd more than likely take the brunt of it, so the berserkers could then dish out the damage in return. So he definitely took the brunt of my tactics. He did Angron. So
all right, well, that kind of leads us on. Tell us about something that happened, kind of like a facepalm moment. Whether it was like you kind of realised you made maybe a tactical error, or the dice completely betrayed you, or something where you're like, if that had just gone a different way, like I might have had this game, or might have scored more points or something, right?
Yeah, so I'd say overall game 4 against the Tau was just really tricky, because I always find Tau go well into Chaos Space Marines and World Eaters, regardless of how bad their codex can be and stuff. They're a laughing joke, but not so against us. And they've got so many little drones that can fire out and just screen. I was completely screened in my deployment zone for turn 1 and I think turn 2 as well. But in that game, I picked bad secondaries. So picking bad secondaries, and I should have definitely taken Stranglehold in a 5 objective mission, stuff like that. So that was just bad start to the Saturday of the event. But I think the biggest facepalm moment was actually the very first game of the tournament, because I was playing Orcs and a real horrible Orc gate list. Like most people were like, wow, you'd be lucky if you get anything from that. And obviously the whole idea and the thought process of my list is the Charybdis coming down and just delivering the berserkers. Failed every single charge.
Oh, yeah.
Even with the Icons of Wrath on the 2 squads of berserkers and a re-roll for either the Angron or the Charybdis. Yeah. Failed every single charge that I needed.
6 charges there, 3 Zerka squads, and 2 characters.
2 Zerka squads, 2 characters, and the Charybdis. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like, you ain't going to make every one of them, but you should be making probably 2, like out of the 5, like 3 or 4 if you're lucky. But
yeah, definitely with an 8-inch charge, you should really, on a re-roll, statistically, you should be getting the berserkers in. Not so much so on, like with the Chaos Lord or the Charybdis, but that was a facepalm moment. But the Charybdis did survive and then get to eat some Orc planes, which was nice. So that was pretty fun. But that was a horrible list, and I'm glad that list has been nerfed.
I mean, it's good, but if it had happened a couple of weeks before Coventry, then could have been a different story. 'Cause,
Yeah, could have been a completely different list and just not as much firepower, because the list I played round one was just obscene. Like, I've never known
Did you all
anything.
go first in that list? In
No,
that
I
game?
did.
Oh, you did.
I went first there, so that's when I thought, yes, I'm getting to see
I was
how it
gonna
works. I
say.
dropped the Charybdis down, and then just nothing, and you kind of stood
Yeah.
there like, okay, what have I got? I've got Leviathan out of range. I've got 2 Scorpiuses. They're not gonna kill any of the scrap jets or the squig buggies or the or the flyers. Needed all this to go. So yeah, that was definitely probably the biggest facepalm. Was you get there with all this hype about how the list is going to work and how little units are going to be and all the links,
the one list that doesn't
and you're
care.
just like, yeah.
It's a rough start. I mean, the thing is, you'll have that, but you know what? Khorne went off, so it balances out, right? Over the 8 games, it balances. All right. So, how do you think you did? Obviously, I mean, you got 5 victories at a super major, so that's no small thing. But from a personal perspective, obviously, like I said, this was the first time running this list. You played some very strong opponents, and every opponent would have been strong, because even those ending up at the bottom of the table were still people that are happy to go and give a weekend to 40k. So, do you feel you did the best you could do? Did you learn some lessons from it? Like, what's your takeaways here?
I definitely felt like I probably overachieved with it, especially when I got the three wins, and the fourth. Okay, it's a different mindset. We've got the 3. Let's push for a 4th. Let's go 4 and 4. That'll be such a good event, because always in the past I've aimed to be positive in my score, in my overall tournament score. So I've always, if I can, with Chaos, when I was running the Chaos Space Marines and whatever concoction I'd chucked in back in the day, and my goal was at least to go 3 and 2 at a 5-round event. If I can do 3 and 2 at Chaos Space Marines, I'm kind of like mid to kind of like,
you're in the top third probably, or
top third, and that'll be a success. So if you can get the 4th win and go 4 and 1, or even 5 and 0, then that. So the goal was, from that went to let's go 4 and 4, and we played the Death Guard match, game 7, which was tough, because it was just a bit of a he played the game in a different spirit to what most people I play with and how I play the game. So it made it really difficult, and even the tables next to me after the game went like, "Wow, you had your work cut out there with like dealing with this gentleman." So I was like, "Yeah, I know." So I got the win, and then I was completely checked out, because mentally I just didn't want that to happen again. It's like, it's Sunday now, it's this 8th game, and I said to the bloke who I played, Alex, in game 8, I was like, just, I'll happily, just from the off, before we even put any models down, if you need a backseat or you go back or anything, just you want to chat about it, we'll talk about the rules, nice, relax, we'll go get a TO if we need. And that'll be it, and that'll be brilliant. And we needed a TO a couple of times, because again, it's a new list for me. I wasn't too sure on how Titanic worked with line of sight and stuff, so I got that explained to me. And then he had some issues with his unit cohesions, which when he took a middle unit out of a eradicator model, he took the middle model out, he was then like 4 inches apart, so I had to so having little chats like that, but it was much nicer and much calmer, and a great way to finish it. So then getting the 5th win, I was just like, I couldn't believe it, because Dara and I were both 4 and 3, and we're like, right, who's going to be the best? So then you got the bragging rights then, so it's like, right, who's going to stitch this? And Deck was creeping up as well. I think Deck had a rough start, but he was 3 and 4 going into his 8th game. So like, if he had a really good game 8, then he could have overtaken us all. So it was like those bragging rights going into it, and then I managed to somehow scrape, and I mean scrape my game 8 victory, because as soon as I realised it was on, and I was getting absolutely punished in the game. And I won by a single point, so it shows how close that was. But
win's a win.
Yeah, Dreadnought spam. It was Red Scorpions, so they were able to have Cullen, who is a Leviathan.
Oh yeah.
Another 3 Leviathans, and then 2 Redemptors, and a smattering of little bits and bobs. So
that's rough.
Yeah, that just deleted me.
Your Scorpius is just being reduced to 1 damage. The Charybdis, because if you've got the crack launchers, I think they're D6, but then your D5 damage. Mind you,
Yeah,
the frag launchers, because they're at -1 AP, that ain't too bad into those Redemptors and stuff. So I don't know, but yeah.
a lot of shots. The frag launchers could just delete like poxwalkers or cultists and stuff like that. It was just like, do you want me to roll this amount of dice? And they'd go, no. Especially if Khorne or someone was nearby, it just wasn't worth it, because you roll in 10d6 dice for the amount of shots you've got, and it's just a bit crazy at that point.
Especially if you run up on like a nice Death Guard army with the 20 Poxwalker bricks or something like that. You're like, it's not 10d6, it's 60 dice. It's 60 dice, and I've got Khorne. We're getting 45 hits here. Is it worth our time? You know what I mean?
Yeah, we're picking up here, mate. We're picking up, exactly. So, realistic. I maybe the Tau game, I could have played it a little bit better. As I mentioned, I picked wrong secondaries, but going second for that game as well, I needed to be first, because he didn't. The lad, even though he was asking me all the questions, he didn't realise that the Charybdis came in turn 1. So afterwards, I wanted to ask you that, but I just completely forgot. Right. So he set up extremely aggressive, which had allowed me to have like made some big good first turn charges. But as soon as like the drones came out and he went first, they just went all around the board. And I think I left one of his Forge World drones on 1 wound with like all my firepower going into it. And it was huge, because that meant he was able to bring that into my deployment zone turn 2, and I just couldn't get rid of it. So
the Remora, is that what it is?
I think so. Yeah,
they're a pain.
It's a little chunky thing with like wings and stuff.
They're a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
So what? Like, let's say you've got a GT coming up, or a strong RTT coming up in a month's time or something, and you're thinking, you know what, I want to run this again. I want to take the Charybdis out. What is there anything you'd change? Is there anything you'd add, remove, shift around?
Yeah, so I have actually got a 2-day GT on the weekend of the 10th or 11th of December, I think it is. So that's really gonna we're taking World Eaters again, but there is some changes. Now, I did find that the list struggled with the secondaries. As I mentioned, sometimes I'd have to keep the Berserkers out the drill to be able to do stuff like raise the banners and stuff like that. Yeah. And I found the Charybdis and some of the units could die really easily if I didn't have an impulse, because they don't have an impulse save. Yeah. So one little tweak that I'm doing this time, and I'm not going crazy, because if I was to go crazy and get my Raptors back in to help with the secondaries, I'd have to like chop a lot of the list up. Right. So all I've really done is I've dropped 1 cultist, so I've got 2 squads at 10. I had 1 with 11 just because of points. Yeah. And the Exalted's gone. Okay. And a Dark Disciple with his Apostles is in there for the 5 up. Okay. Because if you Apocalyptic Frenzy him from the start on the board, you've got 15 inches of movement, and then you've got 6-inch bubbles. So you've got 21-inch range where the Charybdis can come in. Yeah. And all he needs is one of those blades to just dip a toe in. Yeah. And he's just his survivability. Because I went up in a lot of lists. Especially the Imperium side of the list. Let me just have a look here. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Imperium out of 8. Most of them had decent AP, if not melters or equivalent, with -4 AP. So it was going straight through the drill, going straight through the Charybdis, and regardless of 20 wounds, you're gonna.
It doesn't take much.
Yeah, if the damage spikes, then it's going down within. If you might pop the Cherub and the Devastators go for a second time, and it's gone, and then you're leaving the Berserkers out to get picked on, and that's really that happened in game 8. But like I said, I was able just to keep feeding OBSEC into it and getting the win. But that kind of highlighted the need, especially with the amount of Dreadnought firepower, and again against the Marines and against the Tau, just having something that can just potentially get a couple of 5s, 6s, keeping it around, getting that high damage, because they do spike the 5-ups and that. So
you got to think it takes them. That stops a third of their shots. Like if you've got the 5-up invul on there, that's a third of their melters technically that ain't going to get through. So worst case scenario, they've got to then dedicate another squad which ain't going to be shooting something else. So
Yeah, that's one of the list that one of the changes I'm going to make. If I still struggle with the secondaries, I may look to in the future bringing the Raptors back in, because I really did like the Raptors. And talking to Dara, he's praised for his warp talents in his Raptors every single game, like what they would do for him mission wise and points. You kind of like, I totally appreciate where he's coming from, and I would put them in. But I just want to see if I can make the Charybdis survive a little bit more, because you can keep the units in.
Yeah, exactly.
You can keep the units in, so you can just have it charging around with all the angry boys in and moving around. But if you can keep him alive that second turn, you can keep the drill, because I have to start the drill on the board or at the back with the Scorpiuses and the Berserkers. If you can just keep them around a little bit longer, you're just making all that firepower go into it, even like say a third of the shots. Then you've just got more. You're just not getting hit as hard. So let's see how that goes.
Yeah,
like a little change.
I think that's a good change, and it does kind of solve a little bit of your secondary problem as well. Because like your apostle, he just casts the prayer at the start of the round, and then you frenzy him, and like he starts off and he's got the disciples next to him, right? Are you bringing the two disciples?
Yeah.
Then you can leave them at the back to do your banners and stuff. That they're not like the best unit in the world, but it's another infantry unit for you.
Definitely, yeah, and that's because it's got the. I remember you having a game with you on TTS, and you were telling me about how they can do that for you. So yeah, that would massively help if you've just got that extra unit, doing that. And we'll see. I'm hoping just a little changes. Like we'll see. I've added brass collar onto the Dark Apostle. I mean, I didn't really go up against many Psychers, but there is a lot of Thousand Suns out there, and if you can make them peril, that's just an extra bonus for us, isn't it? So and the other change that potentially could happen before it's called the Winter War 2,
right,
is potentially putting the Murder Sword on Angron, or the Chaos Lord. But we'll see, because in the Custodes game, he came in so clutch, the Exalted Champion, because he went into Trajan. Now he's only got 6 attacks on the charge.
Yeah.
Trajan has 7 wounds. So I was banking on getting a Death to the False Emperor.
Yeah.
And I did. And he took him out in one go. And that 3-up involve can be a nightmare to get through, and it can cause, if Trajan's alive with his rerolls and stuff like that, it can put hurt on. So I'm kind of like a little bit on the fence yet. That could be another change. We might try and get some practice in with my cousin. We'll see. But
see, I've been thinking about that. It's one of the Murder Swords. One of the things I've been thinking about since the Death to the False Emperor change, because now it's just an extra, against the target character, it's just an extra mortal wound. So I think it's got an indirect buff, and I think if you can find a way to just get a few more attacks there, whether you're increasing the likelihood of Death to the False Emperor or whatever, I'm liking the Murder Sword, man. I am.
Yeah, I know it, on the Relic chart, it didn't go too well with you and yourself and Dara. It wasn't, but it does certainly have a place. And how I just cannot roll 6s to wound with Gorefather.
Yeah, I know.
And that just puts it every time, like, kind of, I'm thinking, but then for Dara, he cleared up. He was rolling 6s, and he's putting all those mortal wounds. And again, if you're in Trajan and you get those 6s, then he's dead regardless. But you on a 2-up or a 6, I think I'd take the 2-up in that boat, in that situation. So
I see it.
You see it. Good. But then it's kind of, so any other changes probably might have to drop the drill, because it's a lot of points. To get the Raptors in. So if we go back, it's like the secondaries, if I continue to struggle on the secondaries, then I think that's where it goes. Because for me, and I got Dara onto it, the 2 Scorpiuses ignoring line of sight were just consistent for me. And then sometimes you can roll the 3 shots instead of the average. It does happen, but when there's 2 of them, they're going to clean up a small unit that could be causing you trouble, or could be on an objective. And especially when you're going second, the amount of times I stopped people either matching me or holding more than me because I was just taking them off and off and off the objective over and over again. It was big, so they came in pretty clutch most games.
I'm glad you said that because hold on my painting table right now. Here's one. It's about finished.
Yep.
And then here's my second one.
There's his twin.
So I've been wanting to run them for a while. I've had them for a while, and I've tried them on TTS a couple of times, and I was doing my list recently, working my list recently with my Khorne Lord of Skulls, and then as I was reading through your fella's list the other day in prep for the videos, and I seen yours, I was like, okay, I need to find out how they worked for him. Because a few people have used them, and I know you've been running them for a while here and there. You've used them. Didn't you used to use one with your Alpha Legion as well, I think?
Yeah, and in the RTTs that I played in, I had them in there as well. So the smaller tournaments, there has been one in, but this is the first time I managed to take two.
Yeah.
And again, when you know you're coming up against those, like maybe sisters lists or stuff like that, and you're going to pop out small units here, there, and everywhere, they will. And you've got Khorne in there for the rerolls. They're picking them up.
Yeah.
You know.
I'm thinking, I've got my triple Volkite Contemptors. I've been running two of them, but I know the Volkite Contemptors are going to go away. Probably turn of the year. They'll get the FAQ points. Volkite's got to go up, and it should.
I had one in my old list in the last tournament, but I found, again, I can't roll sixes to wound. Right. But I just thought it was a bit of a weak point in the list. Yeah, it's a novelty for me, especially with Chaos Space Marines. It's definitely more of a novelty, and there's definitely a lot more points efficient units than a double Volkite Contemptor, and that's something I forgot to say about the changes. The Leviathan. So to get the points in, I'd have to drop a Hunter Killer, but I'd also go for a siege drill.
Okay.
And that's something that Dara got me onto, and it was mainly how I personally run the Leviathan. The Leviathan for me was always in my objective, in case anything came near the Scorpiuses to touch them, or just be in that threat area that could cause me issue on my home objective. He was there to delete them.
Right.
But where he came up stuck was against he got charged by a Custody Dread, or he got hit by the Pox Walkers that can do a lot of damage.
Yeah. Surprisingly,
yeah. And every time I just thought, if I just had, because he wasn't doing a lot damage wise on big stuff. He was just the missiles would go, and then he's just like protecting and just moving and zoning stuff out. If he had a drill, it'd just make me maybe either push him out, be a bit more aggressive, or if something did come in the battlefield, I can set Khorne one way, or if he's in the Cryptis, then the Leviathan, has got that drill, and it's just I think it outweighs having double guns, and that's something that the lads definitely got me onto.
When I ran mine, it was Graven drill, just because exactly like if he doesn't have a close combat weapon, it's basically just a slightly better Rhino in combat. Like it's not doing anything. Whereas when it has the drill, it's more the psychological effect of, I'm not getting anything close to that. Because whilst it doesn't have the volume, I think it needs an extra 1 or 2 attacks. It's a goddamn Leviathan. But, no one wants to get in combat with it because your small marine type units aren't going to touch it in combat. Yeah. And then the vehicles, if they let it survive, it'll pick up a vehicle. No problem. Absolutely
definitely.
No problem.
Now, because it just didn't really come into my games, does it have Death to the False Emperor as well? No. Is he going to benefit? It doesn't.
It gets Hateful Assault. That's the only, and it doesn't get Butcher's Nails either because they took that away from the Forge World Dreads. They don't get the Legion trait anymore. So all it gets, I think it's 4 base attacks and 1 additional for Hateful Assault. Yeah. So.
But that's enough damage, like you say, to pick up a vehicle here, there, or pick up a squad of
vehicles. Yeah, but there's the problem is getting it in there, which it depends in the way you want to run it or the way you did run it is to kind of protect the Scorpiuses, and it's a great deterrent. May never see combat though because everyone will just kite away from it, and it'll just be relying on its grav and its missiles.
But sometimes that deterrent is it can win you the game. You know, if they're not going to go over there and you're just constantly, you know, firing from downrange, then you know, they can easily lose the game that way, and it can you know, can spiral. So yeah, that's a couple of changes. Little changes for this list, without taking like a big piece out, like the drill or something. Then we'll see how it goes, and I'll definitely feed that back.
Yeah, because I one comment I made in the last video where I chatted with Jack and Dara was one thing I really loved about the whole Coventry tournament, right? Each of you fellas took a different list archetype as well. Like you was rocking the Charybdis, that just really aggressive, but also kind of protected.
Yeah.
Like Alpha Strike, just turn one aggression. Dara was running his, you know, double his arc list, as you say, like double Leviathan, double drills.
Dara's arc.
Right. And you know, Jack had his Lord of Skulls and the Vindicators, and Declan had Hellblades and drills, and I think he had 2 Leviathans as well.
Leviathans, yeah.
So the Leviathan game was strong here. And
it was, it really was.
Leviathans. But yeah, it was just a really, really nice, diverse crowd of lists. Amongst 4 World Eaters players, you know, there obviously you've got your Berserkers in there, and Gorefather was in most of them, and there was drills and all these things, but you all played it in a different way, and all ended up like with really solid results. I know Jack just played the 5 games, but
so especially in the 3-dayer, like to come out 5 and 3, 4 and 4, 4 and 4. I took that as an absolute win for all of us, you know, and. Yeah, there was definitely some. I had my shoulders held high. The lads there, you know, it was good. And another thing that was fun, and I just used it in every single game as a bit of a laugh.
Oh,
I know. You know what I'm gonna? It's the boon table. Yes. I think I don't know at what point. It must have been the Thursday night when I arrived and I bumped into Dara. He just offhand mentioned the boon table, and I thought, you know what? I don't have a lot of CP in this list. I've got 7. But I'm doing it. I don't care. Like, let's just see. I said, have you got a spare spawn and a spare demon prince, mate? He's like, yeah. For as long as mine hasn't turned into it, you can pop over and use it. So it's like brilliant. That's a worry if that does happen.
Yeah.
And I absolutely loved it. I was every time, and it was normally the exalted champion because he had the murder sword. He was cleaving the characters up, and I thought it'd be Angron. No, I managed to get a 3-up on Angron once, but most times I'd get like plus 6 inches to my ranged weapons on the Exalted Champion, and he's got pistol and crack grenades. So I'm like, well, this is absolutely useless, but it's just a bit of fun, you know, stuff. And like my opponents as well, we'd get the book out, especially the Custody player. Game 6, a guy called Luke, probably one of the best games because he was just so energetic and so like enthusiastic about his custodians and like the game itself, and he just had a smile on it all the way through. It was an absolute pleasure to play him. Like we just got the book out. I'm like, right, well, I saw the 1, and it's like spiraling on the 1 again. I'm like, oh my god, he's going to go into it. He's just taking Trajan out. He's going to go into a spawn. What a hero! And then I've got the plus 6 inches. But what I did with that, and I forget about these strats because I'm so out of the loop with the competitive play, was 1 CP, it turned into 3 because the Exalted killed Trajan, so I rolled a 5. And then, because you're the active player, you decide how it works. So I was like, right, okay, you kill the character, you can immediately roll and get D3 back. So I took that, got 3 back, and invested into the boon table. So... and every time I'd go to Dara because it was Dara that got me onto it, and I said like, "Have you done the boon table?" He's like, "No, I couldn't do it. I didn't have a chance." I'm like, "What?" I'm like 7 games in. I've done it every game, like at least twice. You know, like what are you doing here?
It's such a clutch little stratagem. Like, because he was talking about it. I don't know if he messaged me or we was just chatting in the Discord. But you've got like 32% chance, I think, of getting the 3-up invuln on a Chaos Lord. If someone's got a 4-up invuln, you know, Khorne suddenly getting a 2-up, 3-up, that's pretty impressive, you know.
Oh yeah, definitely.
If you get that, because you've got, I think the 7 is the pick anyone you want, and then 6 is add 1 to your save. So It's nice, and then there's
Yeah.
always a chance you get a free demon prince out of it as well.
No, yeah, and the time I got the 3-up on Angron was against the mixed Chaos Space Marines, and he had like the the obnoxious bodyguard Volkite Contemptor, and the Volkite Contemptor just turned around, and for Space Marines they are just so much better.
Yeah,
he just turned around and went, "Okay, you got a 3-up involve. Like, see you later, pal." The very next time. So whilst I'm like enjoying myself, he didn't last that long. That 3-up involve. I got it once, but the very next turn he was dead. So
yeah, but still, I mean, it's the meme, ain't it? It's like
definitely,
I'm playing with a 4-year-old codex, mate. I'm just gonna roll 2d6 and get something fucking cool,
And that's exactly how I approached every game. It's like, I've got this. I've got strategy. I'm just gonna let's just I probably need that CP elsewhere. Screw it. I'm just gonna roll it on this. Let's have some fun. And if I get if it costs me the win, it costs me the win. But thankfully, I think I'd either already lost the game, or it was it didn't make any difference with regards to that. So absolutely belting.
Love it. All right, man. Well, I think that kind of sums it up. Like, you got 5 wins out of 8 games with a 4-year-old codex. I mean, that's an achievement right there. The biggest. Well, I mean, I think the London Grand Tournament was slightly bigger, but still one of the biggest events in the UK in a couple of years. And like, big respect for that, man. Like, you and the boys did some work. It's,
that was the best part. It was just like the boys and get the result was. Don't get me wrong, the result was amazing. It's skyrocketed me as well right into the top UK World Eater players now. So I'm hoping if I can get some good scores together at the 2-day event, because that's what I've not got under my belt. I've only got 2 RTTs and then this Coventry Super. If I get another one of those, it should put me there. Because I think Jack's first, is he? I believe in the UK.
I think he might well be in the UK.
Yeah, in the UK.
Yeah.
Because he's hit him and Maxine have hit a few of the Factorum ones, haven't they? So they've been able to get them, and at the same time, I think for me personally, I just decided to let a few that could have gone to slide, just for health reasons and stuff. Don't rush it and like put too many people at risk, especially with family and stuff like that. So.
Oh no, I understand, mate. Yeah.
But I can't wait to go to the, like I say, start second weekend in December. That's the next one, and that's the tweaks what we're doing. And
all right,
there'll be plenty of rolls on the Boond anyway. I'm going to continue that trend, my man.
Okay, it's going to be an interesting end of the year, because I know in 2 weeks, Jack and Dara have got GTs. I've got a tournament I'm going to, and then week after or 2 weeks after that, whatever it is, you've got yours. So yeah, the top World Eaters, it's not quite settled yet. There's still some play in there.
There is. I think number 1 in the world, I think that could be a little bit tricky, because considering how late I've left it. But if I can do top UK, then if I can be there or thereabouts, Jack's got to be looking over his shoulder. Maxine as well, she will have to, because I'm coming in that GT. And when does it reset? Is it the start of the year?
It's basically after the LVO, I think. I want to say the LVO.
LVO finishes it pretty much. Yeah.
So okay. But I'll be there to claim the last skull. That's
I love it. Excellent.
All right, man. Well, I'm gonna wrap it up there. Just once again, appreciate you coming on Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening for you now, and giving us a little chat.
Absolute pleasure as always, and just to talk World Eaters, big fan. It's not just jumping on the hype, or not that much hype, but my first army, and it's been a while since we've been able to jump back on the channel as well. So
we've got to establish our credentials, right? Because we know next year something big's going to come, and we want to be the OGs. We was there in the dark days,
we were holding the torch and the skull up, back when.
All right, man. Well, thanks again for coming on. Congratulations on your results. Absolutely legendary, and we'll definitely get you back on the channel sometime. Maybe in a few weeks' time when you win your GT with the Charybdis, right?
That's it. Yeah, and I'd love to. Even in the Discord, I'll let you know if those little tweaks, change, and maybe even the comments, I could just pop in and just let you know how it goes. So
definitely, man.
Again, thank you so much, mate, and pleasure to see you.
Yeah, good chat, mate. All right, thanks everyone for watching and sticking around. Until next time, stay healthy, stay safe, and kill main better.